Okay, so we are live now. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first session of our series, Let's Talk Mental Health. Before we jump into the session, we're just going to start off with a land acknowledgement. So Uplift Black acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. The Anishinaabe include the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. We would also like to thank JD Engineering for sponsoring this series. Okay, so just to give you all a little bit of background on our speakers tonight, first off, we have Debbie Opoku, who is a mother of four and a registered psychotherapist who works to erase the stigma associated with mental health and give people the tools needed to share their story. Debbie has extensive experience in mental health advocacy as a workshop facilitator, clinical consultant, and television host. Her work takes an anti-oppressive approach, is focused on healing, and is also informed by a trauma and anti-Black racism lens. We are also so fortunate to be joined by the president and founder of Uplift Black, Shelly Skinner. Shelly is an activist, change maker, and community builder who brings inspirational stories rooted in her lived experiences with various forms of discrimination. Prior to founding Uplift Black, she also co-founded Making Change across Simcoe County and has had diverse involvement in activism across numerous agencies in the area. Currently, she is the president of Uplift Black and is dedicated to the visibility and economic development of Canada's Black community. And these two amazing speakers will be talking about how mental health services are experienced in the Black community. If you have any questions at all during the session, feel free to put them into the Facebook chat and we'll get to as many of them as possible. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Debbie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. And I'm on behalf of Uplift Black, I want to welcome you to the Let's Talk series on mental health, where we will amplify the voices of mental health in the Black community. Now, first and foremost, I want to say that mental health is important. Mental health has always mattered. And right now, it's a non-negotiable fact, right? It's a non-negotiable discussion. It's time to talk about it, dive into it, erase the stigma, all of that. We have mental health, we have Black mental health, and it's important and it needs to be discussed. So I'm so thankful to be here tonight to be able to discuss it. People who belong to a minority group are often hit with a bias, stigma, bigotry, day-to-day microaggressions. And I want to give you some stats before we start. So in any given year, 1 in 5 people in Canada will personally experience a mental health problem or illness. By the age of 40, about 50% of the population will have or will have had a mental illness. And people of the Caribbean, East and West African origin in Ontario have 60% increased risk of a psychosis. My hope for us today is to aim to provide some access to information and resources about mental health from the Black perspective in an effort to decrease the stigma in the Black community. We will also provide support and ways to help to sustain your own mental health. I want to share with you one last stat. Once a mental health issue is recognized, help can make a difference for 80% of people who are affected, allowing them to get back to their regular activities. Now, imagine dealing with a mental health issue and struggling to get support. Imagine knowing that there is something wrong, something's going on, but finding that support, seeking that support, getting the help it's hard, and there's a barrier there. Imagine all of that. I am so honored today to actually speak with Shelly Skinner. As Rachel mentioned, Shelly is the founder of Uplift Black, and she's dedicated to the economic and visibility development of the Black community in Canada. I'm so happy to talk to you. And one of the things we're going to do is talk about the Black lived experience. And that's why I'm so excited to do this series. And I'm so excited that Shelly, you're here and you have been very frank and open and honest about your journey And that's what you're going to do tonight. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's be open and honest about it and really support the community. So thank you so much, Shelly. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much. You can hear me, right? I'm not on mute because that's usually my whole day. You're on mute.
Yeah,
You're
no.
on mute. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Well, I can't really see who's online or anything like that. So Rachel will have to let us know if there's any questions or any comments coming in through the Facebook chat. But we wanted to do this live, right, Debbie? Because we wanted to make it super accessible. This frank conversation, the honest, getting candid conversation today. We want it to be accessible. And I think that you spoke, you know, about that, about the need for resources, the need for help, and sometimes there's barriers to that help, right? And sometimes the best way to heal is through candid conversation. It's through visibility of somebody who may look like you, who may be going through something like you. You know, when I grew up, I remember there were a few key people that I looked up to. So, you know, I loved Janet Jackson, right? Like she was my woman, you know.
Yeah,
you know,
me too. Yeah.
And Whitney Houston, of course, was somebody
lots
that
of
I was
reasons.
just like,
Yes.
lots of reasons. As I got a little bit older, like Queen Latifah was somebody that I admired, and Lauryn Hill. And there's a reason that, you know, all of those faces, you know, are melanin goddesses, is because, you know, I saw a little bit of me in them. And that was important because I didn't really see that outside of like the music entertainment industry. So that was really where I found my idols, where I found my people.
And if you're talking about the skin color, is that where you saw? Yeah.
The only time, like, you know, the people like were being celebrated when we grew up was they were in the entertainment or sports industry.
That's right.
And that's it, right? And I am an artist, so sports wasn't a thing. Right? So, you know, like, so it was art, it was performing art. And so I gravitated towards that area. But I didn't really know much about, you know, I didn't really hear much about like Black professionals, you know, Black millionaires, billionaires, unless you were talking about Oprah, which was like one in a bajillion. You felt like, right? You felt like nobody else could ever achieve what Oprah achieved. But I really realized, you know, that I needed somebody that looked like me, so that if they were experiencing something, like if I was watching the Cosby Show, and like, you know, and those kids were going through a relationship issue, it felt like I can relate.
You could relate.
Most of the other shows, I didn't feel like that would be my experience, so therefore I couldn't really relate to those as a young person. And I think it's important that we have people that we can look up to, that we can aspire to be. We have to always be dreaming. Right. And I think so that I think that's really, really important. That's what keeps us going, right? Like the ability to dream, because I know all of us right now during a lockdown, like if we couldn't dream for the day that this was over, you know, that we would be having you know, a very, very different conversation today, right? So it's important to dream. And and I think that I was a dreamer. I was a dreamer my whole life.
Are you still dreaming? Still got dreams?
Am I still dreaming? Yeah, of course I do. I have all kinds of crazy things that I have.
Well, there's always more to you, right? Like I always admire everything that you do, and there's always something else. There's always something else that you're achieving. So I love that.
I'm multi-layered. Yeah, I'm multi-layered. There are things that I do well, and then there's things that I love to do. And then there's things that I do that's like just my soul. It just like soothes my soul, like dancing. You know, so there's certain things that I think that make me who I am. But you know, I think that's why people see me in all these different areas, is because like everything I do is creative and artistic, and I'll be creative and artistic and all that I ever do. Moving forward. But when we talked about mental health, I mean, I think we were going to the importance of visibility, right?
Absolutely.
And and I think that's why I wanted to come on today. Like I wanted to I want other, young Black queer femmes like me,
Yeah.
and anybody who sees a little bit of themselves in a gal like myself, to know that I got here through all of my experiences,
Yeah.
and I'm only who I am today because of all of them, the good and the bad.
Right.
And I'm just really fortunate that I've been able to keep going.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's good that you
Yeah.
really talk about the bad too, right? Because we are going to struggle. That's
Yeah,
human nature,
that's life.
right?
Yeah.
That's life. We
Mhm,
are going to
mhm.
struggle. But those struggles made you who you are today, made you dream bigger, do bigger
Yeah,
things to be here
absolutely.
today.
It made me keep fighting,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I hate the word resilient. I'm not really a big fan, it's just like a wrong. Just the word, for some reason, it irritates me, because I feel like, as a Black woman, it's been like branded on us, like, you're resilient, you can do it, you can just keep getting through it no matter what happens, right? And the truth is, nobody can keep going like that.
Right.
Like,
Right.
we can keep going with trauma after trauma after trauma. It catches up with you after some time. And,
Yeah.
if you aren't able to find a place of healing and safety, then there's a good chance you won't exist anymore. There's something's going to take you: heart disease, alcoholism, drug abuse,
Yeah.
suicide, completing suicide. Like, these are all these things that are going to happen, because eventually your body's just not going to be able to put up with it. Stress
Absolutely.
alone will kill you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So resiliency really, it makes me feel like people have to get these like continuous badge of honors every single time they go through something. And I feel like, you know, as important it is for us to go through experiences, there's still a lot of experiences that nobody should ever have to go through.
Absolutely. And you said the strong Black woman, that we're
Hmm.
supposed to be seen as that, and that means that we can go through everything and anything. No, that's
No, we
not.
can't.
No, we cannot. We
No,
can't.
no.
Yeah.
And and my life has brought me to a point where there was a moment where I didn't want to go on anymore. I didn't
Yeah.
want the next day to come. The next day felt like it could not get any worse.
Oh,
And if it did, it would be too much. So therefore, this feeling of just giving up, right? And that's what happens when you get pushed and you get
right.
pushed and you get pushed, right?
Would you say this was
Um,
all your life, Shelly? This was something that you experienced all your life, feeling like you just could not keep going on?
no, I think so. I'll start with, I guess I can start with the beginning. So I was a very shy kid, and I loved being home. And I loved being home. I was, my mom would take me, my parents would take me to Trinidad, and I would like be like ready to get back on the plane. I'd come home. My mom said I would kiss the floor, I'd kiss the bed, like I would just like
Oh,
be like, my safe place,
yes.
you know. Don't take me from here again. So that was the truth about who I was. Like, I really love my home. And so I am a lover of my country. I'm a lover of my community. Like, I really love my neighbors. I think it just stays true to who I am as a person, right? But I was also always a little bit different in that I was not a lot like I wasn't as bright as my sister was, or at least as I thought my sister was. And I didn't get as high grades as my older sister did. Um, and my attention span was just not that great. I could lose interest in things pretty easily. So I grew up kind of chasing the shadow of the older sibling. And that older sibling also was really great about like being in front of everybody and just like being the star. And I had a lot of wants to be that, but I couldn't really get there. Now, I also experienced bullying at a really, really, really young age, racially motivated, and from kindergarten, I would hide on my lunch breaks, I would hide in the there was like a little gap between the lost and found on a wall. And as we would walk out single file through the small corridor before we'd get outside, I would be able to find myself and I squeeze myself into that spot, and I would hide there every recess, because if I went out for recess, I was bullied, I was picked on, I was pushed for being Black. I grew up in Toronto in a neighborhood that was at the time very very white, very Portuguese, and I didn't really, I mean, there wasn't a lot of Black families, especially at the Catholic school that I had went to. So it wasn't really until my sister was actually physically injured during a recess at 3 years, grade threes, 3 years above mine, that my mom had decided, I can't keep my kids in this school anymore. After advocating, like so many Black moms do, for their children, they realized that the best thing to do is just move them to a space that may be safer for them, because relying on the education system to show up for their youth it just wasn't happening. So at the time, I ended up going to a French immersion school, and my sister was just at the age where she was able to try out to go to Claude Watson School for the Arts. So so she ended up going to art school, and I went to French immersion. And then shortly thereafter, it was a big migration to the West End of the west of the city. So Brampton was booming, and they were really marketing to the Black and brown communities of the city. They were marketing them to move to Brampton, and for a bigger home and a bigger life, and more opportunities. And so we took that call, and we moved to Brampton. It was so diverse, and not just in visibility, but also in like socioeconomic status. So like we moved from Toronto, and all of a sudden we were middle class,
Right.
which was right. And there was all mixtures all in our streets, and it was a very different experience. And I didn't really experience bullying when I moved, when I got to Brampton. That I felt like I finally started to find my own self, but still holding on to a lot of the shy Shelly that I was, and still chasing the older sibling who could do no wrong. Like all my aunts thought they were amazing. Like my whole family, like they are a pretty fabulous person. So for me, it just felt like, oh my God, like I can never be this person. And I went through also a lot of self-hatred. Whereas I grew up in a home where my mom is Indian and Black, so South Asian and Black from Trinidad, and experienced a lot of anti-Black racism within her own family. Grandparents who disowned them because their son had married into a Black woman, and that internal hatred, it carries with you. Even when you know better,
Right.
those, that it's unconscious, and it lays there. And and the experience of loving yourself as a young Black girl was next to impossible, because there was really not a lot of people who were loving, or showing the beauty of Blackness back then. Right. If the images were usually pretty negative, right, or pretty stereotypical, like athlete, artist, right. So there was so much to strive for, and I found my mom didn't really have a lot of experience with my particular texture of hair. So to them, especially at that time, everybody was talking about it like, oh, just take your kid to get their hair relaxed, and they'll and it's just gonna be easy to take care of their hair. And so my hair, which was probably down to about here, natural, all of a sudden went to like down here, relaxed.
When you relaxed
and
it.
I was like, oh my God, I'm gorgeous. Just gorgeous.
Yes.
And I walked down the street like, because I had smooth white girl hair, right? Like, so this was fantastic until it rained. Right? Until it got wet. Literally the next day. and then you play this game of trying to make your hair look salon fresh every single day.
It only
And
lasts so long
destroying
though.
it. It only lasts so long, and you're destroying your actual natural hair.
Yes.
And honestly, I wish my hair was the same texture it was back then, because when I look back on pictures, I was like, I had gorgeous hair. What did I do? Why
Yes.
did we do this to ourselves?
Yeah.
My hair was stunning, stunning. So I don't know why, but that's just life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this internalized hatred just seated within you, right?
Yeah.
And and as a young Black girl, I also was maturing quicker than most in terms of the way how much older I looked.
Right.
My breasts would were starting to get bigger at an earlier age. I had
Mhm.
lots of booty,
Yeah.
so and my body probably at 11, 12, 13 looked more like 16, 17 at that time,
Well, the
right?
kids
Which
your
happens,
age notice that.
and the kids your age notice it immediately,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially if there are a lot of non-Black students around,
Right.
right? Who are not used to that type of maturity at such an earlier age. So started to become very sexualized at a very young age.
Hmm.
And that was by everyone, like walking down the street past got some construction workers, they would whistle, and
Yeah.
I'm like 12 years old. Older high school kids having interest, and so it was easy to kind of get caught up in that, because the attention and the need for that attention, and from somebody who's not living with not a lot of self-confidence,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because of not a lot of visibility of much people like you, and and you're feeling like you need to um switch yourself and like try to pass and be as Eurocentric as possible. Like, what were the white girls wearing?
Right.
Like I had all of those outfits.
Yes.
Club Monaco sweaters, like
Club
so
Monaco.
yeah,
Yes.
I couldn't wait to get my. I don't know why. I like they're the ugliest thing, and I look at it now, being like, why did you want that so badly, right? Like it
Yeah.
didn't do anything for my body shape.
No.
It was for like skinny thin white girls.
Yes.
If you weren't a skinny thin white girl, Club Monaco did not look good on you,
No.
or so. And it was so I mean, there were also like more voluptuous, gorgeous, like fuller white girls who were trying to wear that clothing, and
Yes.
also
Yeah.
like hating themselves too, right?
Right. Right.
And like
Yeah. It was.
and so any
Oh
attention
my
that
goodness.
came to me was just like, wow, like you think I'm pretty, and so it felt good to be admired,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
and that happens. So there was also a lot of other struggles going on in the home, so there was always me trying to kind of tune out,
Right.
and yeah,
Any attention is good attention
yeah,
if you're dealing
mhm,
with any kind of trauma or
yeah,
anything that you internalize. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so I had an older sibling who didn't want to hang out with their younger sibling. Like, they were in high school and they were older, and they didn't have time for me. So I found things to get in trouble in.
Yeah.
I found trouble. Oh yeah,
Yes.
I found trouble. And I mean, that didn't help. It didn't help that I really struggled with, like I said, attention, maintaining focus. I really enjoyed learning. I really hated school.
Ah,
I hated the school
interesting.
environment.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. My teachers would be so upset with me, because they would like I would hand in assignments, and the assignments were like, oh great, A, but I would never show up to class. They were like, so like you would get like 20% off for like attendance, and so
Yeah.
I would get like an 80, and they were like, if
Right.
you just showed up to class, Shell, you
You could have got
like, no.
100%. Yeah.
Like, I don't know, why would I waste my time being here? I don't like any of these people. And it really was, like I was a little bit of a loner. I always had like one friend, and I always felt off, like I just didn't fit. I
Right.
just didn't fit. Um, and I started to, at a very young age, also question my sexuality. Um, and at that time, I did have interest in both, like female, masculine, and feminine looks, gender. I didn't even understand like what all that meant. I was just really into people who were different,
Right.
and I didn't like, it didn't really matter who you were. If you had something really unique about you, if you challenged the system in any way, it was attractive to me because it just spoke to my soul and to the kind of person that I was. But I was still an outcast in my family and an outcast in the school. And like I said, I became a little bit of a loner, even though I probably could have been somebody who fit in really well. Like I had all the things that the check boxes, and if I wanted to just kind of show up and just fit in, I could. But I didn't have that. Like, and I always was a little bit of sadness inside me. Like I just couldn't just feel settled in any space
Okay.
or feel like I belonged in any space.
Yeah.
And so that was really like how I grew up, just kind of feeling like an outsider.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, outsiders gravitate towards other outsiders, and majority of the time, especially back in the early 90s, those outsiders was the queer community. Actually, at any time,
Yeah.
most of the time, those outsiders were the queer community.
But they're the
And so I
best
found
community.
yeah, yeah. So I found my people. The more I started to find myself.
Mm.
And it was a very interesting time because I was leaving Brampton and moving to the city and starting a whole new life there. I was partnered, and that relationship was at this time, pretty long term for a young person. We had been together about 3 or 4 years, and I was questioning my sexuality, and they were very open about it. Like, yes, of course, we're young, let's live. So it was good,
Right.
but until it wasn't, until it was like, no, I actually really feel like it's something more that I need to really explore. And then those conversations got harder. And the
Mm.
reality of us really working became more difficult. And somebody who I really connected with as this person was like my best friend more than my partner. Like we just spent a lot of time, and we healed through a lot of family trauma together. So as we started to get older, it just felt natural, and to just continue to be together, even though we probably shouldn't have been for a long time at that point. But it was a call
Yeah.
to really find myself that brought me to Montreal. And Montreal was where I found me,
Hmm.
because I was able to get away from everybody. Yeah. And
So it was
and just
being
kind of
away
just
from people that,
and their opinions of
yeah.
me,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Or their expectations of me, right?
Yes.
Like because
Yes.
I had tried to be like all these things that people wanted me to be, and it wasn't working. It wasn't
Right.
working. So it was time for me to kind of find myself a little bit, and what better place to find yourself than Montreal, Canada, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a young person, it was also really awesome to like, go out to university there. And like I walked in and like, I'm black and I'm queer and I'm here to live my life. And I was so
Yep.
excited to just like
Yes.
be this person that I've always wanted to be. And like I just like I flourished. I flourished immediately. I
Yeah.
found my voice. I joined the Concordia Queer Club there. I got into like a band with some incredible feminists, and we just sort of rocked it. Like like my life was good. I worked for the university. I did a lot of work in HIV/AIDS. At the time, the pandemic was still quite a pandemic, very different pandemic than we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And it was, there was still a lot of work to be done in terms of reducing stigma. There still is an incredible amount of work to be done when it comes to reducing stigma.
Yeah.
But at that time, we're talking about 2004, 2005. So it was, you know, we didn't have the U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable like we do now.
Right.
We
Yes.
didn't, you know, so we don't have the, you know, so much more hope. So there were people just dying on all the time still of the disease.
Yeah.
So I was working with the university, and we were running a public lecture series, and we were bringing in speakers from all over, um, you know, the world to speak on the pandemic. And it was beautiful to connect with activists. It was my
Ah,
first this is my first time I was like, you know, talking every day and organizing and writing their bios, and like, so I was learning about activism and you know, being part of the Concordia Queer Union. I was you know, running events for AIDS Community Care Montreal, and just like really just loving this lifestyle of just
yeah.
like advocacy and education
Because you
and
knew who you
public.
were, though. You knew who you were. You were able to express
Yeah.
that, and there was no hiding it. You knew who you were.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I didn't just know who I was. I was in a place where who I was applauded. It was
Yes.
revered. It was
Yes.
put on a pedestal. Like
Yeah.
being this kind of person, you know, I always say like that, like with somebody like me, the university experience is actually the perfect experience for somebody like me, you know,
Yes.
because they really allow you to like have your voice and, you know,
Yeah.
student politics and like all of that. So it was a place that was, you know, a dream come true, that whole experience. And then being in a city that was diverse and that was, you know, that was fresh and sexy and all the things that I wanted to be. It really allowed me to really, you know, figure out myself as a powerful, sexy femme and woman, and like,
Yes.
and it helped me reclaim my sexuality and what I wanted. So I was feeling really good. Like I was
Yeah.
feeling at my peak at that time in my
Yeah.
life. You know, and you could see it. You could see it in my face, and you know, the relationship that I kind of left back in Ontario was still ongoing, though not exclusive. And it came to a point where I had to kind of make that phone call and say, I got a job. I'm going to be staying over the summer. We need to consider that this is not really gonna work out, because I want to be here.
Yeah.
And that was a really difficult conversation because at that point it had been about 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so this person was family, like literally was family.
Yeah.
So it was a really difficult thing, but I couldn't. I had to be true to who I was, and I couldn't hurt that person anymore. And it just felt like this is what I needed to do. But at that point of just like finally feeling like just like awesome, and I'm talking this month back in 2005, no, I'm sorry, 2006,
Okay.
um and I was on my way home from the Ya Ya Ya's concert, and I love the Ya Ya Ya's,
Yes.
and I literally, you know, just hanging with all, you know, all the femme chicks in my band, and
Yeah.
then we all kind of went our separate ways, and I'm coming home, and I had parked my car at a friend's, but it was a few blocks at this time, and I'm not even sure, but we're good for time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a few blocks at this point, um, that I am from, like where my vehicle is. But so I'm leaving the Atwater station in Montreal, and there is I can see my car, like it's there, but I'm
Yeah.
walking, and I just came from a concert, so I'm looking cute. And as I'm walking, I can start to see some people kind of come out from some doors, and it was very obvious to be some male voices, some masculine voices, and you know, like all women know, especially late at night,
Yeah.
keep your head down, keep
Yeah.
walking.
Yes.
Just keep your head down, keep walking. At that time, I put my hand in my purse and I grabbed my phone and my keys, just prepare myself. I don't know. It just got this overwhelming feeling to protect myself and to walk faster. So I started walking, and then I heard them laughing, and then I heard them start to catcall me. Very, very used to catcalling, so I know exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just like, oh, so I pick up the phone and I call a friend, and I'm like, hey, I know it's late. I'm just walking to my car. There's some pieces of shit behind me, and
Yeah.
and we're live, Shelly. And yeah, and what's gonna happen? And like, I need to be safe. I'm doing all the things, right? Like, I got the
Yep.
keys, I got the purse, I'm
Yep.
walking bareheaded. And then they said something about liking or loving Black, the JJ, or something really explicit and like this. And then Shelly kicked in, and I was like,
Oh boy.
what did you just say to me? And
Right.
I turned
Yeah.
around.
Oh, geez,
Like,
Shelly.
are you kidding me right now?
Oh, dear.
Oh, Shelly. No,
Your instinct.
it's instinct. I mean, like,
Yeah.
yes, my blackness came out
Yes.
real quick, ready to be like, pardon?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's no way to speak to a lady.
Exactly.
But at the time, I mean, like, I can make jokes about it now, but at the time, what happened was it led to the worst night of my life, and it led to three gentlemen taking upon themselves to sexually assault me, and to do it freely, right on the streets of downtown Montreal.
Oh God, Shelly.
And it was a like shocking moment of my life, because what do you mean? I just figured it out. I just figured my life out. I got it all. We're good. I'm living my life. What do you mean this happens right now?
Yeah.
Right? So it was a blow. It was a blow.
Oh, Shelly.
It was a blow like I had never ever thought. And
you were doing all the things to
yeah.
protect yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like this.
Yeah.
This
And the
was
thing
not
is,
supposed to
like,
happen.
and the thing is that it wasn't the first time I had been assaulted. It was the first time it had been that violent, right? Because through my years, I had been assaulted already. A friend of my father, and somebody at a party, at a just a house party. So it wasn't my first time. It wasn't my second
Oh,
time,
right.
but it was the most violent time.
Right. Yeah.
And physical violent, like out of the movies, and like quick.
Oh,
And the only way that it all had stopped was a taxi cab. And I only knew it was a taxi cab because you can see the light, and in a dark at night, the top of a car would shine. And that's only really how I knew that it had come. And it had come, but we were kind of far off the side of the street and in a dark area, so you couldn't really see properly. But clearly they knew something's wrong, because they started to honk repeatedly,
okay.
like not just like on a panic honk almost.
Yeah.
And then they ran. And then I had to just take a moment and just be like, what just happened to me? And then I don't know how long it took. And it probably was like literally minutes, but it felt like forever for me to find my shoe and my bag and my phone that had fallen, because I'd had my phone in my hand.
Yeah.
Keys, like, just look for my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got up, and I must have been in shock. I think I literally just walked to my car, and I just got in, and I drove home. And at the time, I had a friend who had some really noisy roommates. So she was using my dorm to study. And she opened the door, because I had kind of rang the buzzer, and she opened it, and she saw me, and I was a mess. And she was like, she literally like dropped. I don't even know what she had in her hand. She was like, what happened? And she just grabbed me, and I didn't really even know how to talk about really what had happened. By the time I was able to kind of settled, I think my phone had been going off nonstop, and the friend that I was on the phone with was like
Yeah.
calling me, being like, "Do I have to call the cops? Like, what is happening?"
Right. Right.
So yeah, I was able to kind of make that connection, and they were able to talk, and it was a decision that I made not to say anything, not to report it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was shame.
Mm.
I think a lot of it was, how do I tell my parents?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, how do I tell anybody? Like, how do I like I chose this life, and people told me that this life was dangerous, that this life was that this wasn't the right decision, right? Being a queer person, right? So of course I have so many things like, like I'm not even a religious person, but I'm like, oh my gosh, is this, like
Right.
God showing me a sign, like everything that like could happen, and all those things that can go through your head, it went through my head, and
Yeah.
I decided that it wasn't going to take me down. That was my decision, that it wasn't going to take me down, and I went the next day as if nothing happened.
So can I just stop you there for 1 second? Because I'm wondering though, then are you thinking at this point that you did something wrong? That you choosing this lifestyle
Yes.
was you doing something wrong?
I already had that fear. I
Yeah.
already lived with all of that. So coming and finally being happy,
Yeah.
and it not, and then this happening to me,
Right.
it felt like such a just,
So that you deserve this, that this is what you deserve. And so many women in that position who have done the same thing that you have feel that same way.
Mhm. And it's because we're not taught that it's not our fault. We're taught that it is.
Yeah.
We're taught to
Exactly.
be ashamed of
Yeah.
ourselves, of our sexuality, of our bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. And for you to
Yeah, we're
be
taught to.
happy, you're not allowed to be happy. You're not
Yeah,
allowed
that's what it
to.
felt like. That's what it felt like. Yeah. So I chose another life. Well, actually, I chose drugs and alcohol
Yeah.
first
Yeah. But
because I
that's
numbed
coping.
it.
That's how you cope.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was in a band, so I had full access to it at any time
Yeah.
I wanted. So
Yeah.
it was, it came with the lifestyle.
Yes.
And it was an easy way to numb myself, and I did, and I numbed myself. I numbed myself until I got pregnant, and I got pregnant with Jade, my
Yeah.
baby,
Yeah.
and Jade saved my life because I was down a really dark path,
Yeah.
really, really, really dark path.
Yeah.
I really recognized now in this person, who is healing every day, that not finding community and not finding services or people to talk to um, was a it was a detrimental to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm such an advocate now with the community in every way that I can, to allow people to like have this like really own this radical self-love, because it really does save lives. It will save their lives. It will save our world if they can just learn to love themselves first.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and I mean, like, there's so much more to the story, but like, obviously, that you can see where so many things at that point were going to be really hard for me, like just moving on, moving forward, healing.
Yes.
Yeah, it
What?
was. I mean, I've clearly, like, I've most recently finally gotten the clinical PTSD diagnosis.
Did you have an idea that it would be PTSD?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
I did, because I mean, I still can't really go out night by myself without being really fearful.
Yeah.
Still, like, I still have to like have the doors locked and then like count to at night, like to the door.
Right.
People
Right.
walking behind me is still really difficult.
Right.
Sudden changes of behavior or aggression around me, like freeze, or I react to the point where I have to take a moment and like breathe through it.
Yes.
Um,
And
you
that's your
know,
traumatic response to what happened.
yeah,
That is your
and then
response.
dreams, and then my dreams and my sleep and
Yeah.
all of that have been interrupted.
How long
So
did it take
yeah,
you to, sorry, how long did it take you to share what had happened to you?
I'll be honest, it was in pieces.
Yeah.
So like I would tell one person, and then I'd tell somebody else, and then I would forget who I'd tell, and I would just be speaking about it, and somebody would be like, "What did you just say?"
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I started to almost like just, yeah, I just really ignored it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
ignored it for a really long time. Um, and I went into I made some really bad choices in relationships. Following
Well,
that.
yeah.
The biggest
Yeah.
choice was going back to my old, to my ex, and trying to, um, start a family. I can't say that's a mistake because I have my little Lucius because out of that, and he's my babe.
Yeah.
But I mean, like there were, and then just that obviously didn't last because it wasn't healthy to begin with, and it needed to end, when it ended originally.
Right.
And then just really making choices. I'm not even sure what I was looking for at that time from the people that I was I was with. I mean, I'm not saying that there was anything wrong with the people. It's just us being together wasn't right.
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 And I also needed a lot of healing
Yeah.
and some time on my own, like,
Yes.
yeah,
How long
yeah, I needed some time
were
on
you
my
in
own.
Montreal past that point?
A month. Um, it happened in April. I got pregnant in July. It was gone by September.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it was a very. I actually ran. I did my very last show 3 months pregnant
Oh,
with my group at the this incredible place called Grumpy's in Montreal.
yeah.
And I with the Concordia Queer Union, I helped plan the Pride float that we had for Montreal Pride. And I was pregnant on the dancing on the float there
Oh, nice.
too. So Jade's been at some good parties with
Yeah,
me.
that's awesome.
Yeah, they have.
That's
They have.
awesome.
It's been really great. So,
You
I
know,
mean, like, and that's one part of my story. And I mean, the truth is that, like, there's so much more that, to share because, I've also just recently gotten a diagnosis of bipolar 2.
right.
And it's also something that I always sort of thought I was. Um, and it does run in the family.
Okay.
And it is, it's very highly likely that you can be bipolar. I've done a lot of research and a lot of work, and it's not as scary as I thought it was going to be when I first started to. I watched a movie or a TV show, and it was talking about bipolar. A girl, it was actually called Bipolar Girl. It was like the episode. I think it
Oh,
was,
really?
yeah, and the whole episode was about this person. It was very extreme, like, it's very extreme. Obviously everything on TV is
Yeah.
very extreme,
Yeah. Yes.
but like I remember sitting there being like, that is
Yeah.
like like that is me in a nutshell, right?
Right. Right.
And I realized, and it was something that I'd really been trying to get a diagnosis. I had been, when I started to finally heal, which was after I was in a relationship that was really abusive, and I finally left that, and I got into the shelter, and so now I'm at a shelter with my kids. Yeah, we're there now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jump forward, 2016.
Yeah.
And now it's like clear to me that I need some help, right? Because I'm here. And of
Right.
course, as women, we tend to, especially as parents,
Yes.
we tend to, it has to be to the point where it's like, now the kids are involved. Now we need help, right? Like
Right.
before we like this, we don't think about ourselves and the fact that we needed it for us. Not,
Yeah.
so before you even got there, but you're so used to giving all of yourself, like putting yourself being like, take it.
Right.
You're
Right.
especially as a single parent, like I was at that place. So I didn't know how to, I was like, didn't know how to take care of me. I didn't know what that
Right.
even meant.
Right. Right.
So I was navigating, that this whole trying to like talk about my feelings and things that have happened to me, and thank the world, the universe for, some of the people that I was able to talk to at the Women and Children Shelter, in our community, who
Yeah.
were just so incredible. In
And
particular,
that's when
yeah.
you realized that there was there was a mental health issue? Did you always know, or is it when somebody?
I always knew depression. Oh, I'm like, yeah. Oh, I've had, after having the 2 kids, my doctor had me on antidepressants for postpartum depression.
Right.
When I was really young, they wanted to put me on antidepressants as well. My mom was depressed in the home, so we had that, and my uncle was depressed. So I was very aware of that, but like they told me that I was just depressed, or like, bad things have happened to me, so yeah, no, you're probably just depressed. And so I've been on antidepressants my whole life, like it feels like my whole adult life, on
Yeah.
and off. Never really felt like it ever really worked for me. So I've been on and off and on and off, trying
Right.
this one, trying that, to find out that there's a good chance that I probably should have never been on it, because based on my bipolar 2, there is different medication that might be more suited for me. But it's taken this long to even get that diagnosis, because nobody wants to hear a Black woman talk about
Well,
her. Like, nobody wants to believe what I'm going through. So when you sit there
right.
and you try to get that, like the shelter, they can only do so much, right? And then when
Yeah.
you have to go to your general doctor, and then they have to refer you, and then you have to get referred here, and then you've got to wait 2 years to be on
Yeah.
to get on this. I waited after a suicide attempt and going to RVH, having CAS called, having them doing regular visits on my home. Um, this is all after just moving out of the shelter and just trying to find myself. Um, I had there was a threat of my children being taken from me.
Yeah.
So guess what I did? I put on the face again, right? Because you got to stay strong. You can't let them take your kids. So you're scared to be sick.
But so you mean to tell me that you're dealing with this mental health issue, all these things are happening around you, you can't get any help because, yeah, you're just a strong Black woman, deal
Yeah.
with it, you're depressed, just deal with it.
Yeah. And if you don't deal with it, then we're going to say that we're going to question your parenting, your ability to parent,
Right.
you
Right.
know? So it was just like, and there were so many things, like, because finally I was not in a really abusive situation. So I was, safe, like
Yes.
finally safe. I'm in my own place, like,
Yeah.
like we're good. But when you're safe is when that's when it all comes. Because
Yeah.
you're no longer fighting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You
Just to survive.
you have a moment to really stop and think and ground yourself and realize, wow, what is going on?
Yeah.
But then you're dismissed.
Yeah.
And I wonder, Shelly, if things had been discovered, if the support had been there, if the services had been there for you and actually giving you that proper diagnosis and giving you the medication and giving you that therapy that you needed, would there have been a big chunk of your life that would have been different?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. There would have been probably a lot less trauma to my children
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well. Right.
Yeah.
And there is, and like I didn't even get to like some of the really juicy parts of trying to seek proper help. But so we're on a waiting list,
Yes.
and it's it's a year. At the time it was a year to get into RVH to see a psychiatrist.
Mhm.
And so right now I'm only I didn't have a family doctor, so I was literally going to walk-in clinics to ask them for help, to like, here's, I need some antidepressants and I need a refill, or so it wasn't real proper care.
Right.
And and considering the coming from a shelter, being in that situation, like there needs to be a whole team in place, right?
Right. Right.
to
Yeah.
support families here, because like the whole family needs it, right?
Yes.
The youth
Yes.
needed everybody. Like
Absolutely.
there's a lot of work that needs to be done to heal from that.
Yeah.
So trying to navigate all that on your own. And of course I had incredible friends. That's how I got through most of things, because I could always call a friend and nobody would ever see me go hungry and nobody would ever see me homeless. So,
Yeah.
I knew that. So it was really powerful to be able to turn to community, because community felt safe. Because if I went to the community of the women who were in the shelter, they knew
Yeah.
what I was going through.
Yes.
When I came there and I needed some groceries, they weren't asking questions. They weren't like, can you show me what you've been working in? How many? Is it, well, I'm depressed. I tried to commit suicide. I'm not working right now. I can barely get out of bed.
Right.
Can you give me some, like,
Yeah.
but then like you go through all of these things to even just, get seen. Plus, I was doing a lot of things in the community that was public, right?
Right.
Like working and doing events and working within, not-for-profit sector. And so a little bit of wanting to keep your privacy, what was happening, also, is anybody going to want to hire me if I'm going through that kind of shit, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
small community here, right? Like everybody
Right.
kind of knows what's going on. So you can very easily be put in a box or literally just be blacklisted and not, and not
Yeah.
be called on. So
Yeah.
I was trying to really hold true to this idea that I was okay.
Yeah.
All still trying to get help and say, okay, what can I do? And then just to stay steady. So I finally get this psychiatrist appointment. I'm like psyched. I'm like, okay, he is going, like I'm gonna lie on the couch.
Yes.
Right? My feet up. He's gonna solve all of my problems. I was so excited.
Yes.
Excited.
You waited so long for it though.
I know. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be able to get out of bed. And I'm gonna be able to, get those things done on my task list. And I'm gonna be able to take the kids to the park today and,
It's gonna
and
happen
cook
like
dinner.
this.
And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna be able to do all the things. And not just, crash and burn so
Yeah.
often. So I go into RVH and I'm waiting there and, of course I'm nervous. So finally, this person walks in and they're holding a clipboard. They got glasses on and they're like, Shelly Skinner. And I'm like, yeah, it's me. And they're like, all right, come with me. Never looked up.
He didn't look at you.
Never looked at me.
Wow.
So I was like, okay. So they turn around and they thought, like, you think it was COVID, we needed to stand 6 feet apart. Like there was some social distancing, okay,
Wow.
from this
Wow.
person as they walked ahead of me. And so I'm walking down the hallway and like down this long hallway to where their office is in the hospital. I get into the office. They get to their table, sit down. Okay, so tell me what's wrong with you. And they still have not looked at me. I have not got eye contact yet.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there in the doctor's office and I am like so upset. I've waited so long for this.
Yes.
You can't even look me in the eye.
Right.
You can't even look me in the eye. Not okay.
No.
Not okay for someone who is struggling.
Yeah.
Who's looking to just be seen. I need to just be seen at this point. I need you to see me.
Yes. After all this time.
Yeah. So
how long was your appointment?
Here I am. Yeah. Like 15 minutes, it felt like. He asked me a bunch of questions, wrote me a prescription for a higher dose of antidepressants, said follow up with my doctor. And I never saw them again.
Wow.
That's what I waited a year for. So yeah. So that was the year that my apartment got on fire. And I ended up being homeless again.
Oh my
like
goodness.
I actually just so it was just like a downward spiral. And then I said, hey, you know what I should do? I should run for city council. Now, I mean, like it was part of like, I have to keep going and this is really important and we're still doing this work and you're not gonna take me down. I'm gonna like, if this doesn't work here, I'm gonna make it work here. Like we've got work to do. Like I'm gonna advocate, I'm gonna fight. This can't be how it is. This can't be okay.
Yes.
You can't treat people this way.
Right. And then it's also okay to speak out about this. It's also okay to come out and say, this is what I'm struggling with. Exactly what you're doing today, exactly what you did then, exactly what you continue to do. It's okay to speak out about this.
Yeah.
Right? Like as you're speaking now, wow, this is what people need to hear. Right? Like you struggle, you don't need to struggle alone.
Yeah, you don't. and you can't, and it's dangerous if you do. And
Yeah.
we need to check in on our people. We need to just be more kind. You
Yes.
just don't know what somebody's been through.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday was the International Day of Pink.
Yes.
And that is a day that we stand up against bullying, especially against homophobia, transphobia, transmisogyny.
That's right. That's right.
In particular, there was the focus was cyberbullying. And
Yeah.
I'm an ambassador because I believe in this organization and I believe in this work.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, it was a little triggering for me because anybody who's been following me for years knows that I am a constant, I'm on constant cyber attack.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
people, there's a love me or hate me thing that goes on in this community, and it's okay. I've accepted it.
Yeah.
But at the same
You're
time,
allowed to
I'm still
have your
human.
own opinion. You're allowed to have your opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. At the same time, I understand that that's kind of the position I put myself in this community, as they say. I don't know if being born and being discriminated against your whole life is putting yourself in this place in the community, but
Right.
it triggered me a little bit because I'm sitting there and I'm just like, we can't be talking to youth if as adults we cannot show the same type of
Yep.
behavior. We adults bully more than youth.
Absolutely.
Where
Yes.
do you think they learned this from?
Exactly.
Yep. That's
Yep.
why it was so important to even though that it was geared towards, and this started because youth were standing up. I had to make it clear, we have to be better.
Yes.
You don't know what people are going through, and you can't assume a missed message is an attack on you. You can't assume somebody's post is directed at you. You
No.
don't and you also can't live on social media.
No.
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 You got to live life, man, and
Yeah.
you've got to get out there and you've got to experience shit.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And it when I told you, I said I am who I am today because of my experiences.
Yes.
So I am this badass bitch.
Yes, you are.
You know
Yes.
what I mean? I am this person. I am this fighter
Yes.
because of my experience, because I've been able to fight through really, really difficult times and still live.
Yes.
And the choice to live, that choice that I made that day when I said I wasn't going to go through with this,
yes,
was to live my life and live my truth,
yes,
regardless of how it affected anybody else.
Yeah.
And that I was going to advocate for others to be able to do the same. So that's
Are
what I
you?
do, and I do.
Yeah. That's what exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, thinking about even your own kids, you've experienced things that you would never want your own kids to experience. But that's why you advocate now. That's why you speak up now. That's why we talk about this now. You create organizations to help and support this now. It's just amazing, Shelly.
Thank you.
It's just amazing. That's what
I
say. No,
I realize now that as much as I worry about the kids, and I mean I worry. I have a trans youth. I have a Black son.
Yeah.
I worry every day. So I worry every day for them. But
what
I
do you
also
worry
know
about? What do you worry
I
about?
worry this that they're gonna go through this day. We still have to fight to exist.
Yeah.
Just be themselves. They're so bright. They've got so much to offer this world, and they just should be able to just do it without anything holding them back. They should be able to do it like every other kid.
Yes.
And I worry that I screwed them up forever.
Oh, we all worry about that.
I'm like, oh man, they're done.
But I see it differently though. I see it as they see their mama like, wow, this is what she went through for us.
I also know that. I also know that they're so friggin' awesome. Like
Yeah,
they're already so much better than I could have ever imagined. And so I have to stay true to that, but I also like hang on to that,
oh,
that's
for
just
sure.
so, so many other parts of who I am that I can't help.
I know.
Yeah.
Spoken like a true mom. I know. I know. But it's 2021, and you want to believe that we are done with the racism, we are done with the bigotry, we're done with the stigma, the
I know that we're
microaggressions.
not. We've
Like,
just literally, I just like we got a past, we got a history. Did you know this?
yeah,
Like we can just like we got so much stuff to figure out.
yeah,
We've got to have meetings, sis. You know what I mean? Like
I know.
meetings after meetings after
Yes,
meetings. Like
yes,
we are not done. We're not even close. A beautiful indigenous sister of mine said, I feel like the Black community is like where we were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, like just discovering ourselves and just
right.
reclaiming our heritage and who we are. And
Yeah,
I agree. And so I'm really excited for that discovery, to learn more and to fall in love with myself even more.
yes,
I think I'm doing a pretty good job finally
absolutely.
there. This handsome person in the picture there helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see him on social media all the time. So I'm like, all
No, they
right.
piss me off on a daily basis. Like
Yes.
literally, I can't stand them, but I would never want to be anywhere but exact right by their side. So,
Same, same.
right?
Yeah. And
Uh,
Rachel, I don't know if there's any questions. If you want to put it in the chat, we can answer them.
yeah,
But I do, want to talk about the resources that you found helpful for you, Shelly. And then you can also talk
yeah,
about Uplift Black and what you offer with Uplift Black as well. So starting off with resources that you found helpful. And I know we still have work to do in terms of mental health, in
yeah,
terms of
mhm,
anti-Black racism and resources.
yeah,
But did you find
yeah.
anything
Um,
helpful?
Very first resource is community. Find your
Yes.
community, and if you can't find it, create it. You are
Yeah.
not the only one. You are not the only one. So, that's my number one resource. Um, the kindness to myself.
Yes.
Um, Boundaries, setting up hard boundaries.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a new one that helps me through my self-care, my
Yes.
um you know therapy,
Yes.
just talking. You don't have to have be on medication to have therapy. And I think a lot of people assume that like therapy is for people who need medication. Like, no, everybody should be talking, and they
Right.
should be able to talk to somebody who's a professional in that field, who can be unbiased and can really help break through some really important things that are going to bring you towards your best self.
Yes.
And so that's an important thing. Forgiveness.
Ooh, talk
Forgiveness.
about that.
Mhm,
That's a good one.
I'm still
That's a good
working
one.
on a lot of it, but
Yeah.
but I've added to the list. Here's
Yes.
the thing: I put it on the list. So
Well, I was going to ask you, like, have you forgiven yourself? And if we go back to that night in Montreal, have you forgiven yourself? Because you put that blame on yourself, like you put yourself in that situation. Do you still think that?
And I'm actually really glad I cut them off before it happened. I'm so glad I did that, because
Yes.
it was gonna happen anyways, and that's the truth. And that's the truth. And if it wasn't me, it was somebody else. So, and so it to me, I was like, yeah, you show them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day, if it's gonna be if I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down fighting, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I definitely have forgiven myself for that moment.
Okay. Okay.
I'm still working on a whole bunch of other ones.
Absolutely. Right. It's one step at a
Yeah.
time. I know.
Yeah.
I know. But forgiveness is definitely key, right? Knowing that we're human, we have flaws, we make mistakes, we have experiences, we learn from it, but learning to forgive ourselves is key.
Yeah, and I think you have to forgive yourself so you can forgive others too, right?
Mhm.
So I've forgiven my parents, in any ways. I actually forgive them so much the more I learn about all the things that they didn't have the opportunity to learn,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the more I get, the older I get, and the more I realize how frigging hard it must have been for them. How
Absolutely.
hard that, like, I think I've had it hard. Like my father's life, his story and the struggles, and um, you know, um, my mom's experiences coming to Canada and how difficult that was. Like we all have stories. I'm
Yes.
not the only person who has these stories. And
Yes.
that's why I want to share it so frankly and open.
Yes.
It's because we're not the only people, like
Yeah.
we all have had things that's happened to us, but doesn't have to be our story. It can
Right.
just be a part of our story,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
And and if I want an ending to my story, I want it to be, and she was healed,
Ah,
you know
nice. That's great.
yeah.
That's absolutely great. Oh my goodness. I love that.
So I'm gonna continuously work towards that. Am I ever gonna, what's the chances of ever, hitting final stage of healing process?
You'll know. You'll
Like,
know.
I don't even know if that even exists, and I understand that, and the more I'm understanding about the things that happen to you with PTSD and how it changes your brain, and the truth about bipolar 2 disorder and how you're born with this, and there's nothing you can do. People are born with many different things in their lives, and I think we need to need to realize that having a neurodivergent issue, or it's just another thing that somebody has to overcome in their
Right.
lives,
Right.
right? Yeah, exactly. And it's just, we all have these things, and mine happens to be this, and
Yes.
but the more you understand it, the more you can live your life healthy and
Yes.
happily, because you
Yes.
understand how your brain works.
Well, that's
We do these tests. We actually do these tests all the time to
yeah.
understand how our brains work, right?
Yes. Yes.
But the stigma of of bipolar disorder, the stigma of having these clinical, um what's the word? Sorry, diagnosis
Diagnosis. Yeah.
is that now, the stigma is that you're sick, or you're unwell, or that
Right.
you're crazy, or you're gonna have a psychosis episode, and like the extreme of everything else, right? Like,
Right. Right.
like it's
Yeah.
always, everybody always wants to judge you on the extreme of something.
Yes.
You have a glass of wine a night, you're an alcoholic, you're belligerent, you're
Oh
falling
yeah.
over, like, what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's, everybody wants to judge people on the extreme of something, and
Right.
and I think that we need to just stop judgment, period.
Yes.
End of story.
Well, if we could
And
stop the judgment, we could stop the stigma, right? Like,
we can stop the noise, and we can stop the noise.
yeah, exactly. And I know we'll
Yeah.
get to this in other parts of the series in terms of the stigma and with the Black community and mental health, but that is also an issue, right? And I know that with the Black experience a double stigma. That's the those who suffer from mental health, and then the experiencing
Mhm.
of discrimination and prejudice, and having
Yeah,
those two stigmas together, like that's that's hard.
it
That's
is. It
really,
is.
really hard.
Yeah, it's very layered.
Yeah. So it's
But
just,
at the same, yeah. But you know what? Like I said, I've learned to, like, really just kind of embrace the parts of who I am, because parts of my bipolar disorder is what started Uplift Black.
yeah.
It's that drive to get
Yes.
shit done,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, it's just like, I can do this. I own the world. I can take it on myself. You know?
Yes.
Those
Was
are,
it?
like, there are a lot of people who are like who have bipolar disorder, who are like CEOs of companies, who are very,
Yes.
like, who are go-getters, like, so
Oh,
but the idea is
absolutely. It does
use
not
it, but
stop you. It's not, it does
no,
not hinder you from achieving
no.
success.
I think it makes me more unique and beautiful, to be honest. And I think that
Absolutely.
the more that I embrace it, my quirkiness, my differences, I think the cooler I become as a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And the more that we
yeah,
see that, we know that's Shelly. And that's, you know, what you portrayed to the world. And it's not just Simcoe County. And I know that you're everywhere. Shelly. It's not just Simcoe
I try
County,
to.
but you just keep going
Mhm.
and beyond and beyond.
Yeah.
And even
Anywhere anybody
sharing.
will hear me, hear my
Yeah.
message. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Anywhere I can share my message of radical self-love. Thank you, Sonia Renee Taylor, for
Yes.
being for just speaking to me.
Yes.
Like Sonia Renee and everybody who hasn't had a chance to read The Body Is Not an Apology. Well, first of all, one thing I want to say about this series, which is really important, is it's for everyone,
Yeah.
not just for Black people.
Yes.
Right? What Uplift Black does is we center Black voices and Black visibility first, but we provide programming and things for everyone. At the end of the day, you know, we are a community organization that is trying to really just be part of this community,
Right.
and to allow Black people to be part of this community here,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So I think that the visibility is really important. But what I loved about Sonia Renee Taylor, and I think what the struggle is that I think people assume as soon as they see the cover and they see Sonia that this person is speaking to only Black women, and Sonia Renee Taylor is speaking to everybody on the
Everybody.
planet,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And I think that what we're trying to do is like normalize just picking up a self-help book by a Black person and knowing that they can be speaking to you too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's really important. And Sonia Renee Taylor really just does it for me because they just speak so much truth to power. They're so powerful in everything that they say, and they say things in the way that I've been trying to say for years, with so much more eloquence. And, like when writers are writers, a writer when you get it. I get it. I've been trying to say it like that for years, but
Yes.
like they basically put all of my advocacy into one book.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so I feel so seen.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you,
that's
Sonia.
part of Uplift Black too. It's that visibility that people are being
Yeah,
seen. Like
yeah.
we see you, we know you're there, we're here for you. That's part of Uplift Black too. So I that's what I so appreciate about what you do.
Yeah. You're healing the world, Debbie. You're healing the world. And you are definitely the voice, I think, of this time. And I'm just so honored to have you as part of our community, as like a neighbor, as
Yes. A neighbor.
as a fellow parent, as somebody that I can turn to, something that our organization can rely on, and something that community has to advocate and support for them. So I'm so excited for the rest of the series.
Yes.
Yes. We've got some really cool, interesting people that are coming on.
We got a good lineup. And like you said, it's not just for Black people, it's for everyone. We are talking about mental health, and that affects everyone. Like I said, 1 in 5 people in Canada are going to experience it in some way or know somebody who's experiencing it. And that
I
you are
feel
not
like 1 in
alone.
5 that number is not true, especially not now. Don't you?
Well, I think it's different COVID. Yeah.
1 in 1.
1 in 1. Everybody's gonna be touched by it in some way.
And that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes this craziness of COVID is actually almost a little bit beautiful, because if everybody is touched by something, then they cannot ignore it.
Right.
And you can't make every person on the planet queer. You can't, or trans, or or of a different ability, or what I mean, like or artistic, or like, so not or blind or deaf. So like you can't. So the fact that people are recognizing, maybe this is the first step to what it's like to actually have empathy for the human life.
Yes.
Regardless of whether that life looks like you, or lives in the same place as you, or has the same zip code as you, or area code. Like, it's just valuing life. And I'm hoping that that's what we'll start seeing a lot more of as we come out of this. And I also want to plug your show, Inside Mental Health, on Rogers.
Yes.
You can see lots of Debbie if you go onto the Rogers TV page. I like to plug people. You don't even have to plug yourself. If you just go to
Thank you.
rogerstv.com/Barry, you can find Inside Mental Health with Debbie Opoku.
Yes, and Shelly has been on the show, so I have amazing guests who talk about their experiences, talk about mental health, and how it connects to the community. So yes, thank you so much for being a part of that, Shelly. So it's fantastic. It's good talk. It's needed talk. It's not just right now. We need to continue this conversation.
I just told the whole world my
about
whole life. That's what just happened right now.
Listen, they privilege.
Just waiting for the book deal now. That's
privilege. Yes. Oh, you should have. I'm sure you saved some for the book though, so don't worry.
Oh, there are things I cannot say on Facebook Live. I have lived lots of life.
Yes.
And lots of fun.
Save it for the
too.
book.
There's
Save it for the
yeah.
book. Yes. Well, we just want to make sure that people know about Uplift Black, www.upliftblack.org. So you can go to there and there's a bunch of resources. If there's support that you need, if you want to get involved.
Yeah.
If you want to get involved.
I'll tell you right now, there's so much going on, so much coming up. So we've been, working behind the scenes to get some really cool programming out for everybody, including this series. Thank you to JD Engineering, one of our big Business Legacy Me members who signed up, and with their sponsorship, we were able to put on this series. We can do more with more community support. We are, we really are just an incredible group of humans just trying to do a whole bunch of really great things in the community and make it accessible for everybody. And so if you are getting anything out of anything that we are doing, if you want to support this movement, please donate. Anything that you can, $5, $10, anything, it all adds up.
Yeah.
And we have a space. We've got a space. So as soon as we're able to get together, we will.
That's right.
Doing family intake meetings and and working on our business mentorship program. We've got so many cool things happening. So we will be connecting with everybody soon. Thank you so much, Debbie, for allowing me to be your first guest today.
Wow. Thank you so much, Shelly. Thank you. And this is I feel like this is the topping, right? This conversation has just been so great. So definitely tune in. This is going to be happening every other Thursday. We're going to do from 6:30 to 8. We're just going to amplify that voice that in the community about mental health, about the importance of speaking about it, different experiences. We got a great lineup of guests. So thank you so much, Shelly, for being the first one to kicking this right off.
Welcome.
And I'm hoping that
Debbie, how can anybody reach you if they wanted to reach you?
You can actually, you know what? Yeah. That's
you can just email wellness@upliftblack.org.
There you go. That's perfect.
And we will
they'll connect me. Yes. And you can also go to insidementalhealth.ca. If there is any issues, if you need support, absolutely insidementalhealth.ca. And I will give you those resources. I will support you in any way possible. So
thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you in 2 weeks.